Welcome everyone to Global Harmonization Initiative webinar series. Today focused on the nutritional opportunities we are facing today. My name is Dr. Diana Bogiva and I'm the GHI Working Group Director. It's my pleasure to welcome you all, and I hope we are going to learn together lots of things. The webinar are going to be focused on few specific topics, and I'll say of interest and very trendy right now for all of you. One of the topics will be front of back nutritional labeling, spices as antioxidants, and the functional benefits of the fermented tea beverage kombucha. And today, in our third webinar of the GHI series, we have a very exciting speakers, Dr. Iuliana Vintiua, a co-chair of the GHI Nutrition Working Group and an associate professor of food science and engineering at Dunărea de Jos University of Galatia, Romania. Also with us today is Dr. Sunita Singh, an assistant professor of chemistry in the University of Lucknow, India. And finally, we have Dr. Viduranga Waisondara, a co-chair of the GHI Nutrition Working Group and the Global Harmonization Initiative Ambassador to Sri Lanka, and the Deputy Principal of the Australian College of Business and Technology, Sri Lanka. Before we start, I would like to announce the message that the GHI Nutrition Working Group is open to new members and to collaboration with global organizations involved in scientific research with the potential to impact the harmonization of nutritional legislation. Please, let's welcome together our speakers and yourself being part of our wonderful audience. Together, we will discover the many nutritional opportunities we are facing today. Before we start, I also wish to thank ICC for providing this platform to enable our presentation and conversation, and also big thanks to all the helpers today, the vital technical assistance of Dr. Gerhard Schleining and Dr. John Tang, who help with our interactive poll. I hope everybody enjoys today's webinar, and please ask as many questions as possible, and we promise to answer as many of them in the time available. And I believe together we will be having a wonderful time. Let's start with our first speaker, Dr. Iuliana Vintiua, a co-chair of the GHI Nutrition Working Group and an associate professor of food science and engineering in Dunărea de Jos University of Galatia, Romania. She's the author of 22 books and book chapters, hundreds of articles and article reviews, and speaker in renowned conferences around the world. Despite her co-chair position in the Nutrition Working Group in Global Harmonization Initiative, she's also a member of prestigious international organizations, including European Federation of Food Science and Technology, International Society of Food Engineering, Balkan Environmental Association, the European Academy of Education and Social Research, to name a few. And thanks, Iuliana, for joining us today, and over to you.
Great, thank you, Diana. Hello to everyone, and welcome to our GHI webinar entitled Nutritional Opportunities Today. Just wanted to say a big thank you to my dear colleagues and friends also who makes possible these webinars. Diana, our GHI Working Group Director, Nicola, our Communication Director, and Gerhard, GHI member of Executive Committee. My name is Iuliana Vintiua. I am Associate Professor, PhD at Dunărea de Jos University, Galați, and co-chair of Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group since 2014. It's my pleasure to address a welcome message to our GHI webinars participants, and to invite each of you to join our working group for better nutrition in nowadays world. In today's webinar entitled Nutritional Opportunities Today, I will give a presentation regarding the front of pack nutrition labeling, principles, and global context. Also, as a Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group opinion and one application for the food service sector. So, in the current global food market, fair food labeling need to be harmonized for correct assessing the food nutritional profile. First of all, in the benefit of the final consumer, but also for giving an optimal direction to the global food industry for tailored food formulation and also, and not at least, for a fair international trading. In this regard, the necessity of well to understand and easy to use graphical nutritional tools for labeling seems to become a useful tool and priority also in our sector for food selection toward daily healthier choices in case of average consumer. The general context of implementing the food nutrition labeling graphical tool possible as mandatory from the next year on European Union is given by the fact that the back-of-pack nutrition declaration as tabular format in most cases are rarely used in purchasing situation, and according to the World Health Organization report 2020, this is a key level to help consumer to make healthier choices, drive reformulation, and promote healthier diets. A back-of-pack table nutrient declaration is already a mandatory requirement in most countries at the global level, but is not effective in its impact. According to the most recent studies, because the average spend time in selecting the food in the purchasing process is about 46 seconds. And for this reason, in this context of a fast spreading of obesity rate, especially in case of children and young population, the European Commission requests to European Food Safety Authority to give its scientific advice on the development of harmonized mandatory front-of-pack nutrition labeling and the setting of nutrient profiles for restricting nutrition and health claims on foods. And based on the European Food Safety Authority conclusions, recent conclusions, after public consultation of all stakeholders, including Global Harmonization Initiative Nutrition Working Group, the statement is very clear. The nutrient profiling models could be used in European food labeling, but a specific model is not nominated by EFSA for the moment. In the end of this year, the European Commission will make public its official position on this politically very sensitive issue, in line with the European Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy, to restrict the promotion of high in salt, sugars, and or fat, in fact saturated fat, by imposing or advising a mandatory or voluntary nutrient profiling, considering harmonized ranking system based on harmonized criteria of nutrient discrimination. The Global Nutrition Initiative Working Group is actively implicated in solving this important topic, consider it as a flag project for us. And in this regards, it's offer voluntary in the April 2031 his official opinion to the European authorities. In fact, European Commission Director Absante, General Director Absante, and EFSA also. Certainly, as you can see on this slide, there is a background of this issue of food nutrition labeling in the world, starting with Sweden, Singapore, and the Netherlands, which already use this label system since 19th in different format, as you can see, of food nutrition labeling, depending on the level of interpretation of food nutritional information given to the final consumer in an easy to understand format or way. There is the informative level and the interpretative level. The informative level is known by almost everyone. Give part of the information already available on the back of bag, without additional information, and the references of the dietary reference dietary value. It is very scientifically, but in case of interpretative levels, we have overall assessment of the nutritional quality, generally in two formats, as you can see in the next slide, please. Color-coded or graded indicators, as you can see, which appear on all products and provide a great deal of information of nutrition and information is about the famous Nutri-Score, for example, or Health Star or rating system. But in the next slide, we can see the logos for this type of interpretative levels of the back interpretative levels. In fact, we need to understand why we discuss about a mandatory food labeling system, because normally, as we can see in the next slide, this type of nutritional labeling is adopted for the three reasons: promoting the choice of healthier food, promoting the avoidance of less healthy food, or comparing the nutritional quality of food. And the current voluntary in-use food labeling system is well known, as I already say, Nutri-Score in France, multi-traffic lights, for example, in United Kingdom, warning level in Israel. It's about the option we can have in using one or another design, depending on the main objective, consider it informative or interpretative. In all the cases, the interpretative scans or labels rely on the graphical elements like a logo. And unfortunately, there is a simplified nutritional information through symbols, colors, logos, sometimes words. So when the mandate of European Commission was accepted by EFSA, I decided to conduct my own research regarding the creation of front-of-pack nutrition labeling for the catering products. And in this aim of better choices, consumer choices towards the most healthy menus composition, and also for optimal tailored diet formulation. And for this reason, I propose in 2020 a scientific-based menu grading tool using an improved bio-Nutri-Score, not an eco, bio-Nutri-Score algorithm, considering the energy and the nutrient daily reference values, DRV, and the nutrients bioavailability index, which is very important for me. Because I started from the existing Nutri-Score system, I suppose that it's important to remember how this works. The algorithm is based on transforming in points the tabular classical nutritional information from back-of-back classical nutrition labeling. By discriminate the nutrients in good and bad, some nutrients, in fact, based on the obesogenic impact and with a simplification by iteration of daily reference value ranges. The calculation algorithm is available on Nutri-Score and free also to be downloaded on Nutri-Score Color Group website. We can see this in the next slide. And this is there is also mobile application, and we could use this application also for the dishes nutritional labeling, including per serving, the energy value, the carbohydrates content, saturated fats, sodium content, fibers, protein, and fruits, vegetables. These are the groups of macronutrients, in fact. And also fruit and vegetables are introduced by this simplified algorithm. In my scientific research, I propose a Nutri-Score application for menu dishes using an improved algorithm for energy and nutrient profiling compared with the daily reference value and nutrients also bioavailability index and the research methodology which I propose involves the menu creation and also the dishes chemical composition assessment analytics or considering the international databases if you want. Each dish is nutrient profiling in energy and micronutrients with the assessment considering the bio daily reference value for all the macro and micronutrients, and the calculation of this bio daily reference value bio Nutri-Score calculation, which conduct to the menu for labeling and bio Nutri-Score application in case of menu creation. The principal steps were proposed accordingly with research methodology. And the final results are the creation of menu nutritional ranking and FOP the labeling system, but with the harmonization of the energy and nutrients daily reference value, considering the equivalence principle and the biodisponibility of the macro and micronutrients, which is an important part of the research, which is an important part, and the creation of this bio-Nutri-Score tool dedicated to the scientific basic menu nutritional value assessment. The global harmonization assessment of energy, nutrient, and nutrients, DRV and RDI in different international jurisdictions were proposed in our first Congress of Global Harmonization Initiative in 2019 in Leiden, the Netherlands. And the estimation of the similitude factor in the next is presented in the next slide. The estimation of the similitude factor for the ratio of similitude and gap index also in the next slide. G index and key index as objective harmonization and indicators as proposed formulas are presented in the next slide. Yes, these are the principal results, and then we have the estimation of the similitude factor as the gap index for this pathway of harmonization at the global level of existing nutritional legislation. In the next slide, we have the formulas. The application results of in fact, this one are the objective harmonization indicators and then the formulas. The application results of the scientific-based procedure to be followed in the harmonization of nutritional labeling applied for daily menus, considering the reference standards. These are the formulas, yes, proposed in 2019. Considering the reference standards for energy and nutrients with impact on the public health. The Global Harmonization Initiative assumed from the beginning its mission of advocating the science-based food science, food safety law and trade at the global level. And the Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group opinion on modifying the existing European nutrition labeling regulation were publicly communicated on our website in the library section, and communicated also to the regulation makers at the European level, the EFSA and the European Commission. In fact, the European Commission request about nutrition nutrients of reference for the public health and unique and harmonized energy and nutritional food profiling system for nutrition labeling. Objectives which fall under our nutrition working group main goal. The main conclusion of our global harmonization and nutrition, these are the results. Yes, and the conclusion for the application in the food services. But after we can see the main conclusion of our Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group opinion document, where that we consider that one, we need better compliance assessment with the existing mandatory general and nutritional label requirements. And two, there is a need of harmonized principle in European nutrition labeling based on scientific criteria for food, beverage, and also for menus profiling applied in food nutrition ranking system, including some nutritional profile analysis, scoring algorithm, and scoring scale. Also, the European harmonized front of pack nutrition labeling standards, guidelines, and procedures need to be implemented based on the European harmonized and the scientific-based food and nutritional scoring and grading. And the Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group recommendation were absolute complying with the mandatory existing food labeling requirements already stated in the chapter 2 and chapter 4 of the existing regulation, and for all additional form of expression and presentation, for example, the nutritional interpretative rating system, there is a need to respect the 7 criteria established in Article 46 from Chapter 5 from the existing directive and regulation. They are very clearly to be objective, non-discriminatory, science-based, also sounded scientifically and valid consumer research is. So this is a pathway to implement a correct FOP labeling in the interpretative way, and all of this to discourage the excessive consumption of foods with negative impact on public health, but without introducing non-fair commercial practice. We need to consider the fact that the consumer perception is highly influenced in purchasing and consuming by these logo recommended foods. So the graphical FOP nutrition labeling could be used as a new nutritional and health logo claim only if it's based on the bio daily reference value nutrients profiling and a science-based assessing algorithm. The right steps for labeling logo system were presented by Dr. Berhager in 2008, and as you can see, involves a harmonized nutrition profile model and a scientifically validated scoring system. Also, at the global level, there is World Health Organization tool for selecting, developing and implementing FOP nutrition labeling. The recommendations were given considering that obviously FOP labeling discriminates across the food groups, and for this reason it is very likely that consumers may not integrate them in their decision making. And also recent studies suggest that the effect of FOP nutrition labeling tend to increase in the next 2-3 years, and the impact may differ from the food category. In conclusion, the Global Harmonization Nutrition Working Group has a convergent opinion with World Health Organization and also in respect of his own principles of impartiality and goodwilling of better nutrition in our world. Thank you very much for your attention. And once again, consider to join us in this wonderful journey of nutrition legislation, global harmonization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vintua. Very interesting outlook of the existing labeling legislation and the bio-Nutri-Score proposition. You know, I'm looking for your honest opinion about the next question that I'm going to ask you. There are many novel alternatives that are coming to the market, including the European markets. You describe labeling legislation around them, but these are like plant-based alternative, insects, algae-based alternatives. What, in your opinion, is the most important piece of nutrition information producers should not avoid including in their product labeling?
Very interesting and very challenging question. I do not think that there are reference nutrients and the reference group of foods. I consider that our optimal diets include all kind of all nutrients, in fact, in the existing daily reference intake, which are well stated for all our ages, also for different occupation, gender, and other categories.
And ingredients, something that consumers are not going to be aware that is put into these new novel alternatives.
Is not universal advice for everyone. We discussed about personalized diets. We discussed about different needs, dietary needs for each age, for each population groups. And in this regards, we have from PDA and EFSA very valuable databases. We need to implement then this information in our the national and continental the guidelines and procedures on the public sector, because this is a problem for school, universities, the hospitals also. My research was conducted in a military hospital, and the results are interesting for the compliance with our national guidelines, but there is a long path away toward the global harmonization of this DRV and FDI for the nutrients. I do not say that they are bad or good. We need all macro and micronutrients in different intakes. And we need to this collaboration between the dietetics, the nutrition, the food services, because we are in the 21st century. We do not cook every time in our family. So we need to, based on the professional, to give us better menus and tailored diets. I think that energy per serving is important. Energy per serving.
Yeah, absolutely.
The limitation of the carbohydrates, I think.
Thanks a lot for this. There'll be probably more questions coming through our conversation today, and I will let you know later. Now, before we continue with our next speaker, let's see what your answer will be for our first interactive poll. And the question is going to come into your screens. The first poll is, which of the following do you think is most important to harmonize across the world? Nutritional labeling, ingredients labeling, allergen labeling, other? Please type in chat box. None of this. We're waiting for your answers. You have another 40 seconds to do this. $30 left. The poll stop now, and the winner is nutritional labeling, followed by ingredients labeling and allergen labeling. I hope any other points of interest are in the chat box. I can't see at the moment, but probably they'll be coming. Thank you very much, and we continue with our next speaker, Dr. Sunita Singh. Sunita is an assistant professor of chemistry in the University of Lucknow, India. She was awarded her PhD in 2015 on the topic chemistry, antioxidants, and antimicrobial activities of essential oils and oleoresins. Over to you, Sunita, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Diana, for such a nice introduction, and the Nutrition Working Group for giving me this opportunity. And I think my topic is very relevant to the present scenario, as we are facing a pandemic where we are going back to our traditional medicine system, where spices and herbs are playing very important role. So my topic is spices as an alternative of synthetic antioxidants. What are spices? International Organization for Standardization defines spices and condiments applies to natural plant or vegetable product or mixtures. They are in whole or ground form and are used to impart flavor, aroma, and pungency. So this is a basic application of spices, and we all know that they are used as a flavorant or aromatic agent for the for various food cuisines. Especially in India, spices are one of the vital components of any food which we made. And according to this International Organization for Standardization, out of 109 spices that has been recognized, 75 are found in India. So, which shows that why spices are important, especially for Indians. When we go to the classification of spices, they are divided on various types that on the basis of origin and flavor, like pungent spices, which includes pepper, ginger, chilies, on the basis of economic importance, such as major spices, which contributes about 75 to 95% of spice trade. And on the basis of cotyledons, they have been divided into dicotyledon and monocotyledons. And when we there are other classification on the basis of origin of flavor, like we have hot spices, mild spices, aromatic spices. On the basis of growth habits, we have herbs, shrubs, trees, climbers. So there are various type of classification on various aspects, such as on the basis of degree of tastiness, they has been divided into hot and mild and aromatic spices. These are some of the commonly used spices, such as cardamom, mint, chili, black pepper, cloves, garlic, bay leaf, cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, coriander. Most of us maybe know about these spices. The general use of spices, all we know that they are being used for the flavor and aroma purposes. But beside this flavor and aroma purposes, they are being used as preservatives, and due to their various biological components present in these spices, they have medicinal purposes also. From ancient times, they have been a very important part of either we can say our traditional medicine system or for preservatives method, they play a very important role. As my topic is concerned with the antioxidant properties of spices, so first we know what are antioxidants. When we talk about it chemically, it is a substance that prevents oxidation or inhibits reactions promoted by oxygen or peroxide. But when we come to a biological definition, it is a synthetic or natural substance that prevent or delay the deterioration of a product or capable of counteracting the damaging effects of oxidation on tissue. Whereas in medical term, it is a substance that significantly decreases the adverse effects of reactive oxygen and nitrogen species on normal physiological functions in humans. So basically, it's to show that antioxidant is a something protective thing which protects the cell or the tissue from the different, we can say, reactive oxygen species or the free radicals, or it delays the food product oxidation processes. So there is a term which very common when we talk about antioxidant, we talk about free radicals and oxidative stress. So free radicals or the reactive oxygen species can be caused due to various external and internal factors, metabolic reactions and radiation, smoking, pollution, processed food, unhealthy lifestyle and diets. All these leads to a we can say a generation of free radicals or reactive oxygen species, for which there have a inherent antioxidant system in our body in a form of enzymatic antioxidants, and they used to mop up these free radicals and make a balance between reactive oxygen species and the antioxidant. But as the external factors is going on the higher side, these free radicals also get increases in number, which leads to a state which is known as oxidative stress, where the normal cell is attacked by free radical or we can say a reactive oxygen species, and this oxidative stress stage give rise to various we can say bad effect or adverse conditions, like we have lipid peroxidation, protein damage, DNA damage. All these processes leads to various type of diseases also when we talk about oxidative stress, or what are the ill effects of oxidative stress. So these oxidative stress are indirectly linked to various diseases. The figure shows that how the normal cell, when attacked by free radicals, gets into an oxidative stress state where there is a imbalance between the antioxidant and free radicals, and which leads to necrosis and apoptosis like condition in the cell. This figure shows that which there are diseases related to oxidative stress. We have Alzheimer, Parkinson's, we have cancer, allergy, rheumatoid, osteoarthritis, skin aging, muscular degeneration. We have cardiac fibrosis, hypertension. So all these are interrelated diseases with the oxidative stress. So we can superficially say what can oxidative stress do. So oxidative stress can lead to these type of diseases. This figure shows how the imbalance is creating between the reactive oxygen species and antioxidant. So now, when there is an imbalance, then the antioxidant comes into play. In case of free radical, which is a very charged species and have a one missed electron, so it want to attack the healthy cell and abstract that electron. So the work of antioxidant is to supply that electron and save the normal cell to be healthy. This figure also shows how these antioxidant helps in avoiding the stage of oxidative stress. We have enzymatic antioxidants which are present in our body, and when we talk about non-enzymatic antioxidants, we have a dietary supplements of vitamins, minerals, organosulfur compounds, carotenoids, polyphenols. All these are a very good source of antioxidants. This is a classification of antioxidants. Antioxidants are basically divided into enzymatic antioxidants and non-enzymatic antioxidants. In this enzymatic antioxidants, we have primary enzymes and secondary enzymes like superoxidase, dismutase, catalase, glutathione peroxidase. And when we talk about non-enzymatic antioxidants, in this category, we can say that spices, herbs come into play because they contain various type of chemical components in form of flavonoids, phenolic acids, which are a very good source of antioxidants. When we talk about the antioxidants in our food system or in our food uh, industry, in prehistoric and historic times, smoking and treating the food with spices is one of the preservative method for increasing the shelf life of that food. But with the advancement of technology around 1950, we have started using the synthetic antioxidant. During the year of 1920 to 1940, we have still used the natural additives like antioxidant for their antioxidant properties like lecithin, tocopherols, gum gallate for the preservative properties. But after the technologies has progressed, we have changed our options and we have switched to the synthetic antioxidants, which was going very well till the with, uh, till the reports which have shown the side effects of these antioxidants, especially the synthetic antioxidants such as the butylated hydroxyanisole, butylated hydroxytoluene, propyl gallate. These are the very frequently used synthetic antioxidants. But with the advancement of techniques, we have also learned about the side effects of these synthetic antioxidants, and then we as a consumer have shifted then back to the natural. We have started with the natural, and then we are now coming back to the natural antioxidants. For we can say it is a part of the trend green consumerism, and people are more attracting towards the products which are of a natural origin, having a clean label, or people think that they have lesser or minimal side effects. Side effects of synthetic antioxidant that has been reported in many papers. They have cytotoxic effects. They have adverse effects on major organs, kidney, liver, lungs. It enhances the carcinogenesis. It has non-typical mode. It has lead to the non-typical mode of cell death. It suppresses the humoral immunity. So these are some of the side effects that has been reported for these synthetic antioxidants, which are frequently used for the preservative properties or to increase the shelf life of the food. So when we talk about the spices, there is a news or we can say headline in 2008 of Forbes magazine, wherein they have arranged some superfoods which have various nutritional values, and in these lists they found cinnamon, which is a spice, on their number 1 position. As well as in New York Times, it is they have listed 11 best food, and in which they found that cinnamon and turmeric, which is also a spice, is found to get a place in these top 11 best food. So people have recognizing about the potential of these spices, and there are in between various reports have supported the various potentials of spices, either it is antioxidant or other like antimicrobial and anti-diabetic. This is one of the Dr. Veer's anti-inflammatory food pyramid, which is he has given various type of pyramids or a healthy diet chart in which they have given a position to the herbs and spices also, which shows the importance of herbs and spices in the daily diet. This is data given by data given on the oxygen radical absorbance capacity of selected foods, which is done by the Nutrition Data Laboratory of USDA, and they found that in their list beside the various fruits and vegetables, they found that five spices are also present, having very good oxygen radical absorbance capacity, which includes cinnamon, cloves, turmeric, cumin seed, and curry powder. Carlson and co-workers in 2010 has investigated a very wide range of investigation for the antioxidant content for different types of herbs and beverages, in which they have also included spices. The antioxidant content of allspice, clove, and mint leaves are very high, and they are a very good source of antioxidant, we can say, properties. This is one of the comparison that 1 teaspoon of cloves is equal to the half cup of blueberries. 1 teaspoon of oregano is equal to 1 bar chocolate, and 1 teaspoon of uh, we can say pomegranate. When we talk about the all the properties related to spices, we say that there is a bioactive components present in these spices, and we have a classification of compounds like we have flavonols, phenolic acids, hydrocinamic acids present in different types of spices, and we have carotenoids, organosulfides. So all these bioactive components are responsible for the various biological activities shown by the spices. This is one of the figures showing the flavonoid component, which is uh, resisting the entrance of free radicals to the system. What are the future prospects of this field? We can say how these spices can change something. Globalization has given the spice to a very wide exposure, and spice is used all over the world. And apart from their culinary use, when there has been various type of researches on various proper biological properties, especially for the health and wellness purposes, spices are gaining interest, especially in the case of antioxidant. Especially the nutraceutical industries are also exploring the various aspects of spices. Even the less commercial value of holy basil and rosemary is also gaining interest or taken as a very good option by the nutraceutical industries for antioxidant properties. And the science of spices, which shows that the bioactive components are very potential candidate for different type of biological properties, like we have antioxidant, anti-diabetic, antimicrobial. So they give a very vast range of chemistry to be explored by the scientific community. This is the forecast of the market of spice and herbs from the 2014 to 2025, which is gradually increasing and showing the trend of, we can say it is a reflection of green consumerism also. There are growth drivers related to this spices as antioxidants, like there is a growing demand for natural antioxidants, and there is a changing diet patterns, and people are more want to include natural products in their diet. But there are some barriers also, like we have stringent government regulations regarding usage and production of antioxidants are expected to restrain the growth of the antioxidant market to some extent. Beside all these government regulations also, the antioxidant content that has been, we know about these spices are very limited, and they have been done in vitro conditions. So there are very limited results in we can say in vivo conditions, and the assays which are used for the antioxidant investigations, they use different mechanism. They have different target molecule, reaction mechanism. So there is no, we can say, a similarity between two assays. So there is a very, so we can't interpret the result of the antioxidant content of any spice that because they are different, two different assays have two different interpretations. So we need very, we can say, a more multifaceted assays for investigating the antioxidant properties of any compound, either it is a spice or any herb. So these are some of the, we can say, examples, and how these spices can be a very good antioxidant source. And these are some of the sources. And thank you so much. I would like to say we are in at which age we need antioxidants for various purposes. So it's including spice in our daily routine is a good thing, and we are gaining antioxidant, we can say, profit from these spices also. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Singh. This was a really wonderful presentation, and we have a few questions here. You gave us a diagram showing antioxidant classifications. We know that not every antioxidant is equal. What are the most powerful spice-based antioxidants we should always consider on a regular basis, but not over-consuming them? You said, you know, we don't want to go on the consumerism side. So which are the spice-based antioxidants you recommend?
I think clove. Clove has very good antioxidant activity. It has a very good content of phenolic compounds also. So clove and turmeric has a very good say a very good profile of using in our routine also. And there is very lesser side effects has been reported for these spices. And especially in Indian cuisine, without turmeric, we can't make any dish. So I think clove and turmeric is a very good source of antioxidant.
Another question. So what do you think are some of the obstacles to including antioxidant content on product labeling?
I think the barrier is the different type of antioxidant assays, which gives the results which can't be compared. If one has doing a antioxidant assays using a very total phenolic content, and one has used a ferric reducing antioxidant capacity, so we can't compare these two results. And there is a very less about this thing on the labeling side, that food has been labeled with the antioxidant content. I haven't seen that in food we see antioxidant content is labeled.
Okay, thank you very much. And what happens if you have too much antioxidants? Are they going to have a negative effects instead of positive? Maybe many people are asking this themselves. If you have too many of stuff.
I don't think so. Anything in excess will cause something. But at present scenario, we need because we are not taking in a very good amount. So at that time, we need an antioxidant, and having excess of anything is not a good thing, I think so. So there should be a study done that what would be the side effects of antioxidants.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thank you very much. We are going to have our second poll, which you'll see display on your screens in a second. But how effective do you think nutritional food labeling is in your country? Very confusing for consumers, quite confusing for consumers, quite clear for consumers, very clear for consumers. Don't know, we don't have nutritional labeling. Please start voting. You have 45 seconds left. The poll stopped now. And I can see almost equally, it's confusing for consumers and quite clear. So this is interesting fact. The difference is 7%. 50% said quite confusing for consumers and 43% quite clear for consumers. The other answers are not so big, so I'm not going to comment on them. So thank you very much for your answers. This is very interesting to be considered, and maybe will be a topic for the nutrition working group to work on this. Why it's so confusing and how this could be changed, and what is clear and how it's clear for consumers. We continue with our last presenter today, Dr. Viduranga Waisondara. She obtained her PhD in food science and technology from the Department of Chemistry at the National University of Singapore. She was a lecturer in Temasek Polytechnic, Singapore for quite a few years. After that, relocated to her motherland, Sri Lanka, and started working on the functional food product development project at the National Institute of Fundamental Studies for 3 years, from 2013 to 2016. And she's also a co-chair of Nutritional Working Group and also a Global Harmonization Initiative ambassador of Sri Lanka, and currently a deputy principal of the Australian College of Business and Technology, Kandy Campus, Kandy, Sri Lanka. Over to you, Vidu, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me today for this series of webinars. What I'm going to present today is actually the functional properties of kombucha. In case you're not really aware of what kombucha is, I will go into that later, but let me basically explain first and foremost what a functional food is. Well, functional food is basically a food which improves human health over and above the provision of basic nutrition, and that is considered as functional food. And functional food are being introduced like into almost all food categories to fulfill the changing consumer preferences. So based on the aim of what functional foods are supposed to be and supposed to perform, there was actually a classification which was introduced several years ago, that functional food can be something that enhances or supports the progress of life, such as prebiotics or probiotics. And functional food can diminish prevailing health problems such as high cholesterol or high blood pressure. And functional food can make life easy, such as, you know, if you're suffering from let's say lactose intolerance or gluten intolerance, so functional food can basically be something which is lactose free or gluten free. So any one of these could actually be a functional food, right? So out of functional foods, the functional beverage sector is actually one of the fastest growing segments in the beverage industry. And the reason for that is because it's easy for a person to choose to drink a healthy beverage than to consume a food product. Because if you take age groups such as the elderly, like, you know, they have to, if they were given solid food, they would have to chew and munch on it. So rather than doing that, if they were given a beverage, they can actually drink it without having to munch and gulp and anything like that. So beverages are actually a better vehicle for the consumption of healthy supplements like additives than solid food products. And when it comes to the global functional beverages market, according to statistics, it's expected to reach 280.3 million by 2030. So that is growing at a compound annual growth rate of 5.9% up until from 2021 to 2030. And out of all the regions in the world, the Asia Pacific market is the biggest, if you go by these statistics. So there's a lot of demand for functional beverages in the Asia Pacific region than in other continents in the world. So what is actually kombucha tea? Well, kombucha tea is actually a beverage. It's fermented, and it has become very popular recently because a lot of people have understood the purported health benefits of kombucha. So it's somewhat of a value-added form of tea for which like functional properties have already been established. And although we think that it is actually a new beverage, it has a history that spans several thousands of years, especially in the East. So it has gained popularity in the West as well, owing to the comparatively acceptable taste, flavor, and the ease of preparation. And we call it kombucha, but kombucha has been known in different names across different countries in the world. I have mentioned some of them here. I'm not going to pronounce them because I have no idea how to pronounce them properly. So with all due respect, I'm just gonna leave it at that for y'all to read. If you can recognize any of these terms, you would know that it is actually kombucha. Right. US kombucha market size is actually growing in staggering amounts, which is actually quite good. Good news, because the fermented functional food beverage market is growing in the US, and with that, the kombucha market size is also growing. And recently, we actually came across this celebrity endorsement. If you have heard about BTS, they have a member called Jungkook, and he has actually endorsed this kombucha beverage. It's the trade name is actually Tizen. So after he promoted it in one of his vlogs, it was surprising that the sales have actually increased by many folds. So with all these celebrity endorsements, the market for kombucha is actually growing. So what does actually kombucha look like? This is actually what it looks like. So it has kind of like a cellulose pellicle which is floating around. It's a disc-shaped thing. That is actually where the microbes are. Then you have the broth. The broth or the liquid part is actually what we drink. So if I were to actually put it into a picture, so this cellulose pellicle is actually the non-drinkable part. Then you have the floating microfibrils, the yeast cells, the bacteria cells, and other types of fibers which are floating around in the broth. That is actually the part that we consume. So this disc, after the supposed period of fermentation is over, you can actually transfer it to a new tea substrate, and the fermentation can actually continue. So in general, the biofilm which is actually used to carry out the kombucha fermentation is directly produced by indigenous microorganisms. So we don't actually add microorganisms to the tea. All you have to do is you prepare some sweetened black tea or green tea, and then you cover it, and then you leave it in the dark, and the indigenous microorganisms will already start fermenting. So each fermentation will lead to a new biofilm level. So this appears in the shape of a mushroom, and once that period of fermentation is over, you can transfer that whole disc, the microbial disc, into another one, and the fermentation can continue. So long time ago, actually, because of this disc, it had a mushroom-like appearance. It was even given a scientific name, Medusiomyces gisevi. So now we know that it's actually a collection of bacteria and yeast. So although the fermented broth is typically consumed in the form of the beverage, it can also be used for topical purposes, like maybe not so much in the Asian market, but elsewhere they actually use the fermented broth as a skin ointment. So yeah, multitude of applications of kombucha. So if you have to prepare kombucha at home, this is actually the recipe. So all you have to do is you have to add sugar to boil water somewhere around this much, so around like 0.05 grams per milliliter. Then you add tea leaves around like 0.005 grams per milliliter. So the ratio should be like about 1 to 10% tea to sugar. You can use either green or black tea. And then you allow the mixture to infuse for about 5 minutes. You filter away the tea leaves, allow it to cool. Then you keep it at room temperature in a sterile container, preferably in a dark place. And after some time, you can either allow it to self-ferment, or you can add, if you already have the kombucha starter culture with you, you can add it to the tea and allow it to ferment. So after about 7 days of fermentation, the tea fungal mat can be removed and the liquid broth can be consumed. So that is kind of like a in-house way of preparing the kombucha tea. Right. So about the chemical and the microbial composition of kombucha tea. So there are different variations that you can get, because you can add like different varieties of tea. You can add black tea, green tea, and then this black tea, green tea, depending on the geographical origin, will have a variety of bioactive organisms as well. And therefore, the indigenous microbial organisms which are present in the tea can also vary. So different parts of the world follow different durations of fermentation, but ideally it's set to about 7 days. So the microbial species which are predominantly present in kombucha are Gluconacetobacter, including Glucoracidobacter xylenium, that is the characteristic species in kombucha. Then you get a variety of yeast, such as Brettanomyces, Zika-Saccharomyces, Saccharomyces, and Pichia. The most important of these species, though, the one which is able to produce the bacterial cellulose, is actually the Comagantibacter xylenus. So recently, this was reclassified from Glucoracidobacter xylenus. So under aerobic conditions, kombucha symbiosis can convert a simple substrate like sucrose containing a black or green tea over a period of 7 to 10 days into a slightly carbonated, mildly sour and refreshing beverage. So what are the major organic acids which are present in the fermented broth? So you get glucuronic acid, gluconic acid, malic acid, oxalic acid, lactic acid, and citric acid. So these are the 6 identified organic acids which are predominantly found in the fermented broth. Then you also get a collection of anions. This content of anions varies from what is originally there in the substrate. So it's actually noteworthy to see that the fluoride ion content increases in the kombucha tea. So whether this is beneficial or not is actually yet to be discovered, because a lot of research right now is not so much focusing on the ion content, but they're more or less focusing on the polyphenol content and the phenolic compounds. So the kombucha tea is definitely something very different from the original substrate that it started off with for its fermentation. So as a functional beverage, Food and Drug Administration and Kappa laboratories in Miami, Florida have carried out microbiological and biochemical tests to report that kombucha is actually safe for human consumption. And if you actually simply Google kombucha, there can be several studies which proven studies which have demonstrated the antioxidants, detoxification, immune boosting, antimicrobial, anti-cancer, and ACE inhibitory activity of kombucha. Then also about these organic acid levels which are found in the kombucha, this is actually within acceptable level. So there's actually nothing, in summary, like there's nothing actually to consider kombucha as toxic, because all these acids have not really gone on to a level that gives toxicological adverse effects. So that's good news in a way, right? So this tea fungus, or rather this microbial disc, which is coming from the kombucha fermentation, is actually quite versatile, because you can actually produce several other functional beverages by simply incorporating that disc into substrates like coffee, king coconut water, oak herbal infusions, coffee berry extract, spices like lemon balm, thyme, peppermint, and sage, apple juice, black tea, and even milk. So there have been several studies which have investigated the versatility of the tea fungus. So you cannot, it's always called the tea fungus. And although the initial substrate is tea, you can actually take it out and you can beverage as well. Then what we actually studied was about the substitution of sugar, which is being added to the kombucha beverage initially during the fermentation. If we substitute it with other kinds of sweetening agents, is it good news or is it bad news? Actually, it was good news, because a lot of people, especially the diabetics, they are concerned about sugar, which is added at the very beginning of the fermentation process. And sometimes, depending on how efficient your microbes are, there could be remnants of the sugar left over. So at the end of the day, although you get a little bit amount of alcohol as a result of the microbial activity, still there will be sugar that is remaining. So instead of using sugar, you can actually use natural sweeteners, such as what we tested was Palmyra jaggery, and we also used palm honey. So these were actually some of the sugars that really showed some significant, statistically significant improvement in the beverage as compared to sugar. And also you have to bear in mind the flavor that these sugar replacers are able to impart. So although the sugar was replaced with this palm honey and the Palmyra jaggery, we actually found out that there's not much of a difference in terms of the flavor and the texture. So sensory wise, it's good as well to have the sugar substituted with the palm honey or maybe the Palmyra jaggery. Right, so in terms of the antioxidant activity, so there was not much difference as well when the sugar was actually replaced with this palm honey and the Palmyra jaggery. Then we also investigated for how long the period of fermentation should continue, and we actually discovered that it should not go beyond 7 days, because if we extend the fermentation, bearing in mind that if we extend it, maybe the antioxidant activity will increase. Actually, the antioxidant activity will decrease. Plus, you get these unwanted metabolites which come as a result of the microbial activity. So 7 days has been identified as the ideal duration of fermentation for the kombucha broth. Right. So in terms of the global market for kombucha, so right now, North America is actually the most significant market for kombucha at present. And in North America, it's actually the US where the largest share of the kombucha market is present. So actually, kombucha was ranked as one of the top selling fermented drinks in the US, and is also the fastest growing food trends, with revenue of like around $180 million in 2015. So that's in the US, but in other parts of the world as well, like Germany and Japan, there's a huge demand for the kombucha market. And not to mention India also, there's a huge demand. So a few conclusions before I wrap things up. So regular kombucha drinkers sometimes could overhype the benefits. That means like they might think that kombucha has every benefit under the sun. So they might actually promote, if you have cancer, drink kombucha. If you have diabetes, drink kombucha. Well, I mean, that's good, but the bad side of promoting or rather following these overhyped believers is that kombucha may actually give health benefits when the consumer has some illness. But if you're already healthy, you might not really see a noticeable difference in your health condition, obviously. And also, despite the fact that there is no precise human clinical trials to prove the beneficial effects of kombucha, it actually has gained popularity. And even though you might not consume it for health purposes, it's still recognized as a refreshing, functional, and symbiotic beverage, as you can see from the celebrity K-pop endorsements and things like that. So yeah, there you go. That's kombucha. So I would like to actually thank a few people at this moment. So my institute, my former institutes, my collaborators, and a special word actually to late Dr. Rasu Jayabalan. He was actually one of my collaborators, and got to know recently that he actually passed away. My research team, research assistants, and also thank you very much to all of them. So if you do have any questions or clarifications, anybody can just drop me an email. This is actually my email address, my office email address, as well as my personal email address. So that's about all for me, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Waisondara. I think now every one of us can start making their own kombucha and enjoying it after your recipe, especially. I'm waiting for questions to come for you, particularly about kombucha, but can we do kombucha adding plus the tea basic ingredients that we usually have to, any other fruit or vegetables to complement the final taste or variety of kombucha drink?
I think it's possible, and there have been a few studies as well which have looked into like enhancing the flavor using fruits, and they have also used the fermented the microbes, basically the microbes which were taken from the kombucha tea. They have added it to fruits, and we actually tried it a long time ago, and it kind of gives a wine-like taste, like a little bubbly taste that comes out. So it's quite nice, but as far as a functional beverage, my concern is like whether now the functional properties of a kombucha beverage in tea is already, it's confirmed, but when it comes to fruits and all, I'm not very sure whether this fermentation actually works on enhancing the functional properties of fruits or any other substrate. We did see it in, we actually did it on tea, we did it on coffee, we did it on king coconut water. Those worked, but for fruits and all, I have seen other studies which actually report that there is, improvement rather of everything.
Okay, this is good to know. Is good in taste and appearance. I mean, the tea is used hot or cold? Any differences in the end product?
Well, it should be consumed cold.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the
but
beverage
I mean,
is more or less like
preparation.
Oh, the process of preparation. The initial, like when you actually, like how you normally prepare tea, you add the tea bag in, and then if you want sugar, you add a little bit of sugar. So that process would still stand. That would still stand, but to really, if you already have the kombucha starter culture, you should not add it while the tea is warm. So you have to let it cool, and then you add this. And anyway, like if you are thinking of having, like, having your own starter culture, you have to let it cool down.
Yeah.
Let it cool down, and then you cover it with a cloth, then you leave it in a dark place, then it will start fermenting, and it's actually very disgusting to look at, but once you take it out, once you take out the microbes and then you put it into another one, then the beverage is actually quite nice looking. Like, it has a wine-like, it's not as clear as wine, probably a little bit of beer kind of.
Thank you very much. We have lots of questions that are unanswered. Some of them are for Dr. Vintua. So, and also Sunita Singh, and probably there'll be some coming for you video as well. So, Dr. Vintua, why do you think we had almost equal results of our poll regarding nutritional labeling clarity and effectiveness for consumers?
Well, I see the results that are very surprising for me. There are difference, equal difference between the countries in which the front of pack, in fact, the nutrition labeling is very clear. And the others, 40% I see in which is not clear at all. I consider that from my experience and from the studies that I read recently, there is very much the impact, a very important impact of these logos. Which design our labels nowadays. I consider that
in different countries they're different.
Yes, much more studies need much more studies need to be conducted in this direction from the behavioral and the consumer impact, because otherwise we cannot implement the interpretative FOP nutrition logos in Europe, at least. In the situation that we are now with our regulation. If this regulation is changed, yes, we can use mandatory another type of labeling, but we see in the end of this year, we will have a result.
Yeah, this is good, and probably this will be something your nutrition working group to look for, to find more answers.
Sure.
So a question now thank you, Dr. Vintila. Question for Sunita Singh. Dr. Singh, is there any current project company venture using agri-food byproducts, food waste, harvest remains, or whatever, as source of spices, either in your country or if you don't know, just you don't know, but this is one of the questions.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that company, but some spices are using for nutraceutical properties. I can name them, but I don't know the company names that are using spices. For anti-diabetic potentials, fenugreek has been used, and turmeric has anti-cancerous properties. So they are being explored for various biological activities, but company name I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine. Another question for you: would you recommend consuming whole foods to utilize the antioxidants or extract from these products? Just short questions because we're advancing with the time.
I think whole food will be the better option for having all type of nutrients in comparison to the extract one.
Okay. Are spice antioxidants more powerful than antioxidants found in fruit and vegetables?
There are some spices I have shown in that table, like clove and cinnamon has very good antioxidant activities in comparison to some of the fruits also. So I can't say that all of them are very good antioxidant, but some of them have very good antioxidant activity in comparison to some of the fruit and vegetables. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And question for Dr. Waisundara. The kombucha starter can be obtained from different natural sources. Are there different kombucha starters?
Yes, there is actually. It's if you go to China, actually, they actually have the kombucha starter cultures with them. Pretty much like any other starter cultures that we get to make yogurt, maybe. They do have different starter cultures, and the starter cultures could be. They can have a variety of,
or any of those.
Yeah. So, and they can have a different composition of the microbes as well. And most of the time, these microbes are kind of engineered. So they, you can actually use it for a few times. So if you're able to read like Chinese, you can actually go to like maybe a TCM market, and then you can actually look for these starter cultures. They actually have it. But the problem with those starter cultures is that they are native to that particular area. So if you actually want to have a starter culture which works for you, you would actually have to start, because these are indigenous microorganisms we're talking about. So if I have the microbes, let's say I have this microbe starter culture here in Sri Lanka, and I try to send it over to another country, it's very likely that these microorganisms might fail in that particular region. So it's all things which are yet to be explored about kombucha in a way. And the commercially produced kombucha is they have their own secret microorganisms which are very efficient, like similar to producing beer. Yeah. So even I have no idea what kind of microbes that they use. Yeah.
This is good. So everything needs to be localized, even labeling, antioxidants, kombucha starters, everything, which is wonderful, because everybody around the world can have their own things and respect and learn from whatever the nature are giving them. Thank you very much. This was a wonderful conversation created by the GHI Nutrition Working Group. Thank you very much, Dr. Iuliana Vintila, a co-chair of the Nutrition Working Group and an associate professor of food science and engineering at Dunoria de Jos, University of Galați, Romania. Thank you, Dr. Sunita Singh, an assistant professor of chemistry in the University of Lucknow, India. And thank you, Dr. Viduranga Waisundara, a co-chair of the GHI Nutrition Working Group, a Global Harmonization Initiative ambassador of Sri Lanka, and the Deputy Principal of the Australian College of Business Technology, Kandy Campus, Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, Dr. Gerhard Schleining, for the technical assistance, and Dr. John Tang for organizing our interactive poll questions during the webinar. Thanks goes to Nicola Stanley, our GHI Communication Director, for the wonderful work behind the scene, advertising our webinar series, and together with Gerhard, making things go smoothly. Thanks goes to all of you, our audience, being part of our special nutrition webinar. Thank you for being with us today, and see you our next time. Stay safe, healthy, happy, and curious, and enjoy your day. See ya.